Hey, family, Dr. Clark here. Just wanted to pop on really quick, and I was just having a conversation with someone, and it just dawned on me the importance of kind of sharing parts of not necessarily the depths of the conversation, but just the message of the conversation. And here's what the conversation what we covered a bit in the conversation. And we talked about this concept of delegation and team development. And for those of you who are building nonprofits, for those of you who are building team structures, right? This is an important thing for you to continuously master and focus on. That is team development, leadership development, etc. There is this parable story in Matthew 25 where Jesus tells a story about this guy who was a business owner, a master business person, and he went on a trip and he said to his team, I'm going to go on a trip. I'll be right back. So I'm gonna leave you each with talents. And so you may be familiar with the story. One was left with five, one was left with two, and one was left with one. Now, the thing you want to figure out or look at this particular story are a couple of things that stand out to me. One, you can make some value judgments and some assessments about why this person received five, two, and one, and why they may happen. I think we can infer some thoughts there. And when you look at the end result of the story, you can see why they received the gifts that they got. But there's this idea of how growth happens within a business, how growth happens within an organization, whether you're starting out, whether you're maturing, or whether you're at this mature phase and you're trying to elevate to a whole nother level. When you look at these people who receive these gifts, these are people who are kind of senior managers, mid-level managers who receive these gifts, and they were charged with one specific thing, and that was to reap fruit and results from places the owner has never planted seed. And, when I think about that particular story and an example, I'm thinking about the fact that as nonprofit entrepreneurs, as leaders, as executive directors, as founders, you are laying a foundation for your nonprofit and you are laying a foundation for what is to come. There's a legacy that you're leaving behind. Now, as you do that and as you take these steps to make these things happen for your organization, you're also going to realize that you are going to run your course and there are things that you're going to have to let others do. And that means that in order for you to release them to do what they do, you have to put enough in them. You have to coach enough within them. You have to lead them enough. You have to teach them enough so that they can take your principles, they can understand them, they can master them, and they can now personalize the values, the morals that you have, and they can internalize it and then have it executed in a way that makes sense to them. And this is where this parable comes into play, where it says that he wanted to reap where he's never sown. He wanted to gather fruit where he's never set foot. And the growth of a business is all about your ability to leverage the performance of your team to do things that, one, you may have never done, things you never considered, but are in complete alignment with who you are as a person, that's in complete alignment with your business practices and your vision for your nonprofit. I wanted to share that. And I think in light of people who are constantly starting something and they talk about, I got volunteers, or I have people who are volunteering their time or whatever, there is a reality that volunteers have limitations. They have a shelf life because they have other obligations that require their time and energy throughout the day. You need professionals. You need people you're paying. You need people on payroll to really help you elevate and accelerate growth. You have so many things to accomplish in your nonprofit. There are visions and dreams you have to realize, but you can't do that by yourself, and you certainly can't do that off the back of volunteers. That's not how it works. You need a team, and you need to pay people. And so to do that, you got to have a vision for where you're going, and you got to believe that you're hiring people and you're selecting people to be on your team who are going to plant seeds in areas where you've never been and is going to reap the fruit from places you never set foot in that will benefit the nonprofit, that will leave a legacy for your nonprofit, that will leave a legacy for the customers you're serving. So I wanted to share that quick tidbit with you. I thought that was a really interesting thing to talk about. There are so many elements to that particular story that I did not cover in this quick podcast, but I encourage you to read the story. I also encourage you, as a matter of fact, I wrote a lot about that particular story in my book, Sustainable: How to Sustain a Faith-Based and a Nonprofit Organization. That's my doctoral thesis. Go ahead and get that copy. Go ahead and get your copy of that book, because I not only talk about that particular story, I also talk about revenue creation out of thin air. These are for nonprofits who are trying to earn income through services that they are charging market rate prices for. You'll be surprised what Scripture talks about and how it articulates how you can do that. So get your book of sustainable. Get your copy of Sustainable. You can always go to elipatrick.com or mysixfigurefunding.com to access my books. Just go all the way to the bottom and click on books. It'll take you to the page where you can access your copy of my book. So I wanted to share that with you. Hope this is helpful. This is Dr. William Clark for a mini Dr. William Clark podcast. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.